Okay, so uh, can I get like a quick summary of like who you guys are and just kind of like how, or maybe just like how you got into games in the first place?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I guess I'll start. So I'm Kai. Essentia basically started with me. It was an idea I've been brewing in my head for the past 3 years, I guess. Roughly a year or two ago, I started to learn actually to develop games. I did IT before that. I'm a web developer, but I decided to go more into game development now, and I slowly worked my way up, learned more pixel art, 3D design, Unreal Engine, and all that stuff. And I also Matt also joined me, so we were
Yeah.
friends before that, and he was just so he liked the project, right, and wanted to be a part of it, and we just started to work on it together. Now we are a group of 4 people. We have me, obviously. I kind of take over the role of I guess the director. I'm the programming lead, you'd say, and I also do 3D design. And then we have an artist, Melina, and our sound guy, Flodor. I guess Matt can say what he does.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I also do some 3D design and modeling, and but mostly I focus on writing out the story, and also I guess doing some marketing, yeah, editing videos for channels and stuff, and that sort of things.
So are you guys both, your whole team lives in Germany?
No, actually, just 2 of us. We split up into 2 countries, actually. So
Yeah.
I'm in Germany, and our artist Melina too, and Matt and our sound guy Flodor, they are both in Croatia.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um, this might not be as good of a question then, but I just wanted to do something fun. If I was to visit your area, where would you tell me to like go try that food or what places to visit?
Uh, oh, okay, area. So like in Germany, I guess. Personally, so I'm also Turkish. I'm German Turkish.
Mhm.
Personally, if you would come to Germany, I would recommend you to eat Turkish food because I think it's generally better. Germans have good beer, of course, so try to get like a combination of both. But generally, I'd say there are amazing Turkish restaurants in Germany, and most people really also like it. Like you might have already like heard about doner kebab, right? That's like a really big thing here in Germany for everyone, and it's like probably the combination of German and Turkish cuisine kind of combined, because it was a food that was invented in Germany by a Turkish person. So it's like a melting pot
Yeah,
of meals. It's really good.
that's cool.
Legitimate talk.
Yeah.
Do you okay? So, I wanted to ask, do you guys have like any hobbies outside of game development?
Well, playing games is obviously
That I mean,
one
that
of
yeah, that's an
them.
important one. It's actually a very important one to have.
Oh
Yeah.
man, but yeah, like we play games. We actually both also watch anime.
Mhm.
Uh, I myself also like read manga, watch movies, stuff like that. And yeah, that's I think pretty much it.
Well,
Also go
Well,
out, friends, stuff like that. I don't know.
yeah. I guess honestly, myself these days, I only work on the game and work out.
right, right.
So that's like the main 2 things we're really trying to accelerate our development cycle and get a lot of content out there. But yeah, also same as Matt, going out, playing games, the usual things.
Yeah, that's kind of a trend I'm seeing so far. It's like, hey, what hobbies
Yeah.
do you do? And it's like, well, I used to have hobbies. Now I just focus on games and my family, and that's about it. Um,
Yeah.
but I did see that Matt has a pretty decent YouTube channel started, right?
Oh
So
yeah, actually, I did. So that was like my original dream. That was actually how I met Kai, because we have this another friend called Shady who also has a YouTube channel, and he actually first contacted me for a collab. Then he contacted Kai, and then all three of us kind of started to, I guess, hang out and like even like on and off collabs, and just became friends. And yeah,
that's cool. That's awesome
Yeah,
that they
pretty
guys
much.
kind of just met by just wanting to create content together. Um,
yeah.
how about music? What kind of music are you guys into when you're, or even more specifically, what kind of music do you listen to when you're grinding on the game?
Yeah, we recently just talked about
He's
because
laughing.
Spotify rap just recently released. So I'm kind of the biggest normie when it comes to music. So some of my favorite artists are like Drake, J. Cole, and stuff like that. So I listen to a lot of hip hop. I also really like, soul and vaporwave. If you ever heard of that. Generally,
Yeah, for sure.
while developing the game, I only listen to vaporwave and JRPG music tracks. Chrono Trigger, all that classic stuff.
Cool. And Matt?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I am what you would call music illiterate. I listen to most random stuff ever. Recently, I actually been listening to the God of War Ragnarok soundtrack. God of War, one of my favorite game franchises, and just
great game.
like finished it. It's so good. And I've been just listening that soundtrack on repeat. Actually working on a video on it, and when I am 3D modeling or writing wherever, I just have it constantly in my background.
Well, hey, I mean, I don't think maybe I'm illiterate too then. I don't know. I like to jump a lot between what I listen to. Like there might be a month where I'm listening specifically to this, and another month where I'm because I had a soundtrack where it was like different movie scores, like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And I have
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, then I have one for just like nerdcore type music, and then I have one for just chill hop, just to kind of be in the zone, just stuff that doesn't have too much words or to focus on what I'm working on. But so Kyh, you already had a job in like coding and programming before, right? So
yes, exactly. So
what were you making like mobile apps or what were you?
No, so I was like heavily in web development, so I was creating websites and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
Obviously I also studied like something in that direction, and all the programming knowledge and programming logic I just picked up there, and it's pretty much once you learn any language, you can do anything else pretty easily in IT. So it was kind of hard to pick up game development and stuff like that at first, but because there are other things going into it compared to the stuff I did before. But it was generally kind of a smooth transition.
Okay, cool. Matt,
Yeah.
what were you into? Like, what were you like into coding or IT, or what were you up to?
Well, actually, funny enough, I'm actually currently still studying. I'm in university studying IT and software engineering and some design as well. And I also, similar to Kyh, actually had a job a few months ago where I was also doing some web programming, some websites, front end, mostly some back end as well. But then because of university, I had to basically quit, and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go and help out Kyh and work on the game as well, and just kind of focus on that.
Nothing wrong with that at all, I don't think. I mean, I attended a boot camp for full stack web development, and I went to college for a little bit to learn specifically how to make iOS apps, and then I moved to just full stack web development, and I learned React and Python and all that stuff. And learning, I'd say JavaScript and React were very useful because I could really transition to C# incredibly easily. And like you said, it's really easy to kind of pick up any language from there. What roles or classes do you guys typically gravitate towards when playing games?
Video games?
Yep.
Oh, I like the big boys.
Tank?
I like to be, I like tanks, paladins. I recently just picked up WoW, actually. I started playing it.
Classic
I
or
really
retail?
Retail.
Okay.
I just really like tanks, big boys. Yeah.
I just like guys with swords. I don't know.
Guys with swords.
Just like a basic knight. Let's go. And if I'm feeling a little spicy, I maybe a rogue or something like that. Something like quick. with knives or something.
I always find myself gravitating towards maybe classes that have a little bit more unique playstyle or supportive. I know when I played WoW, I did priest. And then whenever I get the chance, I think it's fun to play. I don't know. I like paladins, but I like the utility classes. So like if something like a bard exists in a game, I might totally go after that because it's more of an interesting play style you never see in most games.
You ever try Lost Ark? Because the bard class in that game is really good.
I have not. I kind of
really
watched
good.
it when it launched and everything, but the last flavor of the month type of game. I think New World was the last game I played like that, and
Oh man, that
it's
game was so disappointing.
it's a shame. I know it is. It's a shame because I actually loved the world they had it in. Like
Yeah.
it felt very believable, right? You have like it felt grounded because it was like we have all this realistic, historically accurate to a sense, and then you just teleport these guys to a magical world basically. And I thought it was a really cool concept. Do you think the faction-based game like thing was like the downfall?
I think partially, like either they should have given it like another 2 years to like properly work it out. It's just PvP MMOs generally don't tend to work out that well, and especially with the promise they had with the whole development of the game, I think that like just heavily, affected that. I think they just needed more time, and I think they ironed out some of the issues. I haven't picked it up in a while, but in recent times I've only heard good things about it. So generally, yeah, I think in the beginning probably the faction system and the open market, because that one got inflated very fast. Kind of, where the downfall of the game.
Do you think MMO should just like start moving away from PvP oriented things then? Because I mean, for example, I'm like really excited for Riot Games' MMO when that comes out in a million years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like, did you watch all the videos by Necrit?
Oh yeah, Necrit, dude, I'm a lore nerd, so I'm sitting there. I've been watching Necrit stuff for a long time.
We actually really big League fans, so I'm really excited for that MMO. Combining Riot, a company I generally really like with like an MMO. I think quality-wise it will be really good. I still think PvP is a big part of any MMO, just not the main focus, I think. So we know like MMOs are all about the social experience, right? Playing with others, and part of that is also playing against them. But making it the main focus is just a really hard thing to do.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so you said you gravitate towards tanks. So like, what? You're like a Scion main?
No, actually on League I'm like kind of like different. I mainly play mages. My main is actually Seraphine. If you know her, the pink hat eager.
Get this guy out of here.
I play her on mid lane.
We tried to change him, really, but we tried. Like we sent him to therapy and stuff, but he just doesn't budge.
My favorite mage is probably Xerath. I just love his long-ranged artillery.
Oh, I love Xerath as well.
Yeah, he's pretty fun. But yeah, I mainly play her. I also jungle every now and then. Kayn, Poppy, all that stuff. What do you play, Matt?
Yeah, Matt, what do you play?
Well, for some reason, I used to main Ashe, like way back in the day, but recently I've been maining Ezreal, and for some reason he just clicks for me, so I guess I'm just fanboying the heart, I don't know.
Hey, when I started playing League, I think my very first character ever was Rammus support, and then I played Ezreal next. Yes, Rammus support is not correct. It's not the right thing to do. But I was playing. Yeah. I played back like at the end of season 2, and I was like, "What am I doing?" So I just took Rammus, went support, and then just bought home guards for fun and didn't know what I was doing. First, I want to talk a little bit about your art and sound. You said Flowdoor is doing the sound. What is kind of like his role right now? Is he focusing on music or sound effects, or what's going on?
Well, currently he's taking care of all basically the sound effects and just sounds, ambient sounds, all that kind of stuff, like damage attacks, rolls, everything, basically everything except soundtrack, which we feel like we will like later on down the development get a professional and license him to make them whatever, like license them to make a music for us. Well, further, yeah, he's basically making all the sounds himself. He's the type of guy who likes doing that.
Just like knocks on it to make a sound.
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah. Like recently, he was making this sound effects for like our main character yells light attacks, and he just took a spatula and just whipped it around the air. Took that and then combined it with like some sheen effects, I guess, to just like make it like shink shink kind of,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
the
great.
daggery sounds. So yeah.
The main theme is gonna be a big deal, right? Because that kind of captures your audience, especially during your trailer.
Yeah.
And do you have you played around with little thing? Have you like popped up like on your game and kind of made like a little medley in your head at all yet, or have you thought of anything that you want it to at least kind of sound like? Is it supposed to sound happy, or have you thought of a tone?
Yeah, we talked about it several times. So for our starting area, Audio Village, which will be a place where we won't stay for too long, but it will still be thematically a really important place. We want to go for a more natural sound, so flutes, you know,
Okay,
a lot
yeah.
of wind kind of sounds, right? Because it's a very closed off small village, and one of the biggest first plot points will be that we will be climbing on the mountain. It's called Mountain Space, right next to Audio Village. This will be our first mission that's called like that. And the real main theme, I'd say, will hit during a very important story sequence on top of the mountain. And that theme is supposed to give you a feeling of freedom, right? It's going to, it has to convey this feeling of freedom and just, I guess, running through the world, just running through the world like the wind. You know, you're flowing through the world, and it's supposed to be like a revolution of some sorts. You know, you climb on the top of the mountain and you see how big the world actually is, having your whole life lived in the small village, right?
That's great. I think climbing the mountain and everything will really look great, especially in your 2.5D style.
Yes, we can't wait to make it. We just recently finished up Audio Village, our starting area, just like earlier this week. So we're going to get started with Mountain Space, which is the name of the mountain, if I haven't mentioned that yet. We're going to start with that, probably starting next week. Yeah, probably next week. So that's pretty exciting for us.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
I mean, I saw a lot of the art you guys were putting up on your Twitter. By the way, follow them at Essentia Game. And it's really cool. It's awesome to see the progress you take and all the work that goes into it. But what were you gonna say, Matt? I apologize.
I wanted to do a comparison since you're a Star Wars guy. Basically, that theme, you know, that scene in The New Hope when Luke is looking at those two suns on Tatooine. That's basically the feeling of that soundtrack.
Okay, cool. Kyh, were you exclusively the only one doing pixel art at first when you were working on this?
Actually, yeah, if you would go through the Twitter, you can kind of see where we got the artist on Melina. She's really talented. She's like really good. And before her, I kind of had to balance doing 3D, pixel art, and programming. And you develop games, it's hard to do everything. So once we got her, our animation quality and just like character design just got stepped up a notch.
I've seen some of her work. Is she mainly focused on like concepts at the moment?
Concepts and the pixel art. So the new character design that you can see, the one that we're currently using for main protagonist, yeah. She made that. She's also creating all the attack animations running and all that stuff. So we have a very clear split. So textures and stuff like that I make, and everything concerning characters she's currently working on, because that's a lot. She's currently working heavily on our main character, all the animations he's going to need for all the attacks and all that stuff.
That's pretty cool, because pixel art's fun to do, but it's hard to make something like perfect the way you want it to with pixel and especially humans. I suck so bad at making humans in pixel art. It's kind of difficult. Like I can make like silly little monsters and slimes and stuff like that, but or like a sword or items, but as soon as you get to like humans, I fall apart very quickly.
Yeah, I relate to that. We've actually come a really long way. If you want to, we had many iterations, many versions of our main character. Yeah, if you want, I can send you some examples later. I have
Yeah, cool.
everything
I'll put like
saved.
put an image of it up here during the video.
Yeah.
But because I think I saw it where it was kind of like you went from like a large character and you kind of gradually like changed shape and everything. Because I saw on Twitter you mentioned that Chrono Trigger was the original inspiration for the first sprite.
Yes, actually, that was the third sprite. Actually, before that, I had like other versions that were basically unusable. But the first full sprite sheet that I made with like full walking, running animations, that one was heavily inspired by Chrono Trigger. But over the time, we slowly developed our own style, and I think we're still inspired, but still we have our own thing going. I think in terms of art style.
Okay, which is kind of a perfect transition to story and character design. I wanted to ask what games are an inspiration, because one of the games that I pull out of it is I noticed a little bit of classic Star Ocean, but I don't know if that's a game you guys have played.
I actually did, yes.
Okay.
I actually played Star Ocean was actually one of the games I intentionally played for research for Essentia. I played the remake on the Nintendo Switch. That one, amazing game.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, so there are like a few main inspirations. I'd say. Obviously, Chrono Trigger was one of the core inspirations. Also, Secret of Mana and Star Ocean in terms of gameplay, because we will have an active combat system. The game is not round-based, and there are going to be some special mechanics that will heavily influence the game, which is the gameplay, I mean, which is, for example, something you also have in Star Ocean. You know, you have all these different abilities and whatnot, and they all kind of influence your gameplay. We're taking a bit more of an active approach to the systems we're implementing, so I can just kind of reveal it. I think I've revealed it on streams before. So we are currently working on a system which is called the stacking system. It's still in work, so we might change the name later on. But basically what we do is that we take two characters out of our group and they kind of can merge into one unit, not physically, but gameplay wise. So they merge together, they have a shared health bar and mana bar, all that stuff. And they get unique properties depending on how you combine them. Let's say we take our healer, we have kind of a special healer, which is, her ability is to hit her teammates with her staff to heal them pretty much. So her healing isn't the best, so she has to apply it directly on the skin. So pretty much what you're going to do during the gameplay is that you beat your mates. You beat them. You don't attack the monsters, you focus your mates. If we take her and our main character Yal and we stack them, she's going to stand behind the character and beat his back while he's attacking the monsters, and you pretty much get, let's call it lifesteal. You're not actively stealing it, but you're healing as you beat the enemy, as she's behind you beating you. And these kind of fusions, they are supposed to also really play into the dynamics the characters have. So one of the first encounters Yal and our healer Tasla are going to have is that she, beats him.
Yeah.
And he realizes, oh, this didn't hurt. This didn't hurt. So one of that's like really playing into, their relationship, and we're going to do that with all the different characters. There's going to be a main cast of 4 characters, and those 4 will all have unique stacking fusions with each other.
Okay, that's cool. I guess this is a question for both of you, but I kind of noted specifically Matt just because of his YouTube channel. I figured he was like a huge anime fan.
Oh yeah.
For your stories, are there any animes that are influencing your story at all, or you've taken inspiration from?
Well, just recently for one of, I'm not gonna spoil them because this is way down the line,
Yeah, for sure.
deep into the story. There's this huge event that happens, and I've actually taken inspiration to when writing that scene. I've taken inspiration from a certain anime called Re:Zero. I don't know if you've watched it or heard of it. Not gonna say which part because that in itself might be a spoiler.
For sure.
But yeah, there's definitely anime influence in the writing, at least in some, big scenes, I should say.
I think you probably kind of expect it in the kind of style of the game that you guys are going for, right? Like it definitely it gives the style, I should say, is definitely reminiscent of a lot of Japanese developed games where they have that type of writing. So I think it makes sense and it fits perfectly. Okay, so this is I don't know if which one of you this is the father of this character, but your protagonist is named Yell. How long did How long did it take to come up with that name and to get a solid name? And who is he as a person, at least starting out?
Okay, so the characterization I leave to Matt, but the name origin I can give. So Yell is based off a Turkish word for wind. So we have a running theme with all the character namings, at least for our protagonists, and all the first names are inspired by Turkish words for some kind of wind, you know. It's just so happened that one night I was just thinking about names. I was like, okay, what can I do that is, you know, unique for the character names? You've already had so many different ones, and I thought, okay, why not use, you know, the influence, my own influence, my own, let's say, culture and language that I know, and see what I can work with, you know, look for some synonyms. And Yell just sounded right. It's a short name. It sounds pretty well rememberable, and yeah, it also fits the character's theme, you know.
Yeah.
Which Matt can describe further because he tends to be better at describing things like that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, like Yell as a character is quite interesting because he's a type of protagonist that kind of seeks out adventure. In that he's like really rash and just like, well, the wind itself just kind of goes with the flow. Like he lives in this secluded village where life is like so mundane. People are just like working throughout their life, just like, you know, farming, going hunting, stuff, just to survive. And he feels trapped by that, so he yearns for this adventure. So whenever, even if a small adventure presents itself, he just kind of goes towards it, like a wind. It's just he's dead set focused on like making something of himself, and just, you know, wherever that takes him, it takes him.
Is Yell where's his moral compass? Is he just like all the way to the right, straight good guy, or how do you see him?
At the very least, his intentions are good, but like some of his decisions, sometimes being a bit more impulsive, may lead to some, well, bad consequences. So although, like, if he sees a hurting child, he will go and help it. But, you know, sometimes that his kind of moral compass is a bit selfish, because a lot of times it might be more so like, oh, something might happen, kind of, you know, that extroverted kind of like, oh, let's see what's gonna happen there. Although he's still a good guy. Like, I want to preface that his moral compass is still on the good side, but then again, there's like this little kind of spice, I should say, added to him.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Do you have like a progression for his character plan at all? Like to go from, you know, maybe this rash, you know, kid that is like really focused about himself and wanting to constantly do exciting things, to maybe later down the road be like more of you know, more of a thoughtful person and more selfless? Or
Yeah, actually, that's one of the like when Kyh first told me about the game, and when we first started, like, there was like this happened like one night at 1 a.m. Kyh like, I'm thinking of making a game. I have this thing planned out, and one of the first things we talked about in that like a long, huge talk was just like Yell's character and his progression from start to finish. Of course, there were some different iterations now throughout the months, but generally, yeah, he's gonna go through this. You can call it hero's journey, but he's gonna go through this huge character progression where he might necessarily won't make a full 180 in his worldview, but he will definitely mature and see, like he'll basically see a world with like different eyes, and he will be a different person.
now this is gonna be a hard question. We got a what makes a compelling protagonist in your guys' mind?
Oh, I think, in my personal opinion, is just flaws. If flaws and relatability, and most of the times people do relate to flaws. So if you have just a perfect protagonist, he can work, of course, depending on his surroundings. But if you like truly want to relate and have an interesting protagonist, you have to, of course, give him some kind of relatability, some kind of ground level where everybody can say, okay, he's a good guy, we can follow him, and then just like bring him some flaws, so you're kind of stuck with him. You're like, come on, man, you can do better. You could just like, I see you grow, like, you know, just kind of like you, basically your friend, you know, seeing your friends like grow and becoming better, kind of so, that sort of thing.
Do you have a big bad, or is he? Because I haven't seen any images about big bad. Because sometimes big bads are sometimes more of a face of the game than the hero themselves at times. So I mean, look at this guy. This guy's.
That's true. That's true.
He's
Yeah,
more, when I think Star Wars, it's this man right here, not Luke Skywalker. It's Darth Vader.
I can 100% agree. I think you and the rest of the world is just Darth Vader.
Yeah, so there is a big bad, and we put a lot of thought into him already. His name is Molotros, and I think he will be very, very enticing. I think so. If you want to tell us more about it, Matt, if there's anything that we can reveal yet, I leave that to you.
Yeah, that's kind of. I'm struggling to say because a lot of stuff regarding to him is very spoiler heavy. All I can say, or all we can say, is that he's like the big guy. Kind of stereotypically, he's like you can call him the Demon King or whatever. He doesn't rule over the entire world, but everybody fears him. Everybody knows who he is, except for Yell, because he's in this secluded village. So you know he starts learning about the world. So you know throughout the game you start to learn more about him and about this big bad. And Yell, the character he's like, well, that's a good adventure right there. Let's go beat the bad guy. So yeah, I don't want to say too much because we've been working on him and like with him and like the Yell and him, like we've been kind of developing them together and trying to like make this like interesting dynamic. And I think actually the entire team, like Kyh, myself, Melina, Flo, they're all kind of like chipped in to make like this actually pretty interesting character in my opinion.
He's kind of a gem, I think. He's kind of a gem, honestly.
Does he wear a helmet?
I can't wait. No. I probably not.
Okay, I didn't know because I was gonna ask. Because sometimes that can make a big difference if your villain's face is covered like this man, or if it's completely, or if it's revealed. Just because it can kind of hide intention, I guess.
Let's just say he always wears somewhat of a mask. Let's say it like this.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, will we get to see like maybe a preview of him on your guys' Twitter in the future?
So we are currently working on a demo that we are planning to release hopefully sometime early next year, maybe February, if you're really fast, maybe January. He will definitely be teased, not fully released by that demo yet though.
Okay.
But we are really excited to slowly but surely bring him to life.
That'll be really cool. I'll have to reach out to you guys when you do that because I'd love to play the demo and maybe even make a little video on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talk about good protagonists, good villains. How about your everyday NPC? Not as much thought. You don't have to go like super in depth with their backstory, and at least in this type of game. I mean, we're not playing like Dungeons and Dragons or anything where every character can be a evil warlord or something, But your fisherman, which I love, your little fishing guy at the lake. I love that. It looks beautiful with the water and everything. He probably doesn't have like a grand backstory unless he's like, Matt's looking like that. He's like, yes, he's actually the Demon King. But no, it's.
So I'm laughing because you mentioned fishermen, and a lot of NPCs are gonna have their at least Easter eggs. They're gonna have like their, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them will have their history and kind of like place in the world. And the fisherman is definitely one of them. He will have Well, I guess I can reveal it. He will have a side quest dedicated to himself,
I-
and his story as well.
The
Hopefully,
thing is, originally I didn't plan for any side quests or anything like that, but then Melina got on our team, and our artist, she's a really, really big fan of side quests, and just having stuff to do in the world, and she just came up with these great ideas, and we kind of, get motivated to build up on that, and we try to, at least have 1 or 2 characters in each zone that gives you a very enticing side story to just play through.
okay, and but these side stories are like, how important do your side quests get? Are you giving out, mythical items on some of them, or are you? Because it would be nice to reward your player to, go that extra step.
So, especially with the Fisherman's Quest, you are going to would miss out on a lot of world building because his side story is kind of something that spans over multiple areas and just tells kind of an important story in context to the world. Obviously, also the player will be provided any cool items, weapons, and all that stuff as a reward for completing these quests. But I think the most rewarding part about these quests is really getting to know the world more.
Okay.
Yeah, like world building and just some nice emotional, sometimes epic, sometimes bad, sometimes sad story. So like basically a mini game inside of a game.
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be kind of funny. See the fisherman. You go to like a new zone, and he's like, for some reason, he's fishing in the in the new zone as well. And at the very end, you're like in the Demon King zone, and the fisherman's just fishing down there or something. But
Fishing in a blood lake.
yeah, exactly. He's fishing in the blood lake. Hey, do you have your story like kind of a rough idea, or do you have it completely pretty well known? Or I mean, stuff like this changes throughout the development process, but do you have a pretty good idea of what you want to go down?
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say the story, like the general, like bullet points, the events are 90% done. We still have that like small 10% that can be changed. We're still kind of experimenting and like throwing ideas at. But yeah, like the story, especially the beginning and ending, like the intro and the epilogue, they are complete. Like, I would say they're done. In my opinion, they're amazing, and I love them. Those are actually those same. The intro and ending basically stay the same since Kyh told me about it, and that was one of the things that kind of got me hooked on this project. So yeah, and then just the in-betweens also are filled, and it's not written though. It's not written completely, but generally we pretty much know like how most of the story will pan out.
Yeah, so with not written, he means that we haven't written out every single line of dialogue.
Yeah, sure.
For the epilogue and first act, like we roughly already have conversations and NPC conversations and all that stuff. So pretty much all we're going to need for the demo. That part we already have written out. The story beats and arcs and their running themes, they're all pretty much written out, and we know what we want to do with the story. And yeah, as I can say, as Matt said, the story is, we believe that we really have something very special here in terms of storytelling. And I remember Matt and we were in call back then, I think at 4 a.m. we were talking about the story, we both got goosebumps. So I'm really excited to present the story to everyone eventually.
That's super cool though, because you guys were probably determined to make this even if it was just the both of you throughout the whole thing, right? Like you didn't
probably
need a team. You guys probably would have been. And it's such a nice thing to have somebody incredibly passionate about the game that you can just hit up at 3 a.m. and be like, "You up? I need to talk about my story." Because it really gets you motivated, and when you have another person working with you, it's a really a fantastic thing. So Matt, were you what was it like an easy choice for you to do the story then? Like, do you love story and lore and all that?
I eat the shit up. I love it. So like you mentioned, I have a YouTube channel, and like more and more with my videos I try to write them out and make a kind of a story. I'm still not very good at it, but I try to. And I actually have a list on my phone of I don't even know at this point, I think 50 ideas and like for like all kinds of short stories, whether it be video games, movies, manga, or whatever. I just like I love storytelling in all kinds of media. I like even I also play D&D IRL.
Nice.
I love that. Like even like telling, like being a dungeon master, even like a kind of experiencing another person's storyline. I just love stories. That's I love telling them. I love hearing them.
What is important to you guys to create a good action RPG experience? Like what goes into that? Like when you think action RPG, and what are you trying to maybe do different or make better?
So I would definitely say so. You've heard it a lot of times. Easy to pick up, hard to learn. That's one of the core things I was thinking about. So when I was starting to at least conceptualize the gameplay, I was thinking, okay, how can we like start this off fairly simple, make it still fun, and how can we build upon that? So first I started with, okay, we will have light and heavy attacks. What will we do with these attacks? So we got to the idea that we could not only have like the heavy attack be slower and do more attack, and have the light attack be faster and do less damage. So for example, for our main character Yal, he will be fighting with double daggers, right? And his light attacks will be usual dagger attacks, but his heavy attacks will be kind of long range. So at one point throughout the story, he gets his double daggers, and after his first fight, he realizes something is a bit off. So he sees a bunch of ropes just lying around, and he decides, okay, hey, I can use those. So he attaches the ropes to the daggers, and that will be his heavy attack. So he will kind of use his heavy attacks to get more range and use them like a whip, right? So he attaches the rope to the dagger and just whips them forward, right? Pulls them back.
Okay.
And that kind of adds to his whole theme of freedom too, somewhat, because he doesn't want to be limited to just using light attacks, being close range. He also wants to hit further. And for our second character, Essen, which will be kind of the best friend character, the guy you start the story with, he will be starting off as a long-range character. He has a bow, and at some point, we're still unsure how we thematically want to convey this, but he will be breaking his bow in half, and he can like attach it back. But his heavy attack pretty much will be, for example, that his bow breaks in half. Okay, he uses it as a nunchuck, right? So his heavy attack will be the bow splits in part, and he whips it around. It's his close range attack, does more damage, but he also, the enemy can attack him. He can far range attack. We kind of try to do these unique things with all the characters, so they, first of all, feel different from each other, are fun to play, and just stuff you haven't seen yet, right? Stuff that is a bit out there, but not too crazy, so you can still see this and be like, okay, I can see how this could work, right? So this is kind of the first layer of our combat system. Adding onto that, the mentioned stacking system, which will also be adding to that. So the stack can't be used at all times. It's also limited in time, so you have to make sure to time it well. You're also kind of taking a risk, right? So if you die during the stacking mode, once your characters are once, they are both gone. You have to revive them, or just plainly fight without them, which will make the fight a lot harder. So you're kind of going high risk, high reward, right? And this is these are like let's call them two main layers of our combat system.
Okay, so when you level up, when you're playing and Yell levels up, is it just he levels up and his stats increase, or is it he levels up, here's a skill tree, or what are you planning?
So he does level up, and he will gain new abilities. I forgot to mention that. So characters also have normal abilities. There's not just heavy and light. They will be able to, at least for the moment, we were thinking up to 4 special attacks that they can equip and skills they can use with the mana, or we're calling it Essence. The name of the game is Essentia, Essence, so we're calling it Essence. So they'll be able to use that. These abilities. We haven't really talked about the skill tree yet, how we could maybe make that work in the game or implement that. For now, it's just the abilities, but skill tree could be something we could still be looking to implement eventually. Just some active bonuses, passive bonus, boni that you can just add to your character.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. How about you might not typically see it in a game like this, but I have to ask just because I see it popping up everywhere. Is there going to be any sort of like crafting or potion making? Just because like if you kill a monster, it drops an ingredient or something like that.
No, it's
Nope, not
something like that. It's not currently planned. No.
Okay, cool.
You'll have normal stores where you can like buy weapons and potions and all that stuff.
Okay, just had to ask.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe this is more of a question for Matt, but what makes a good quest?
Well, well, I'm guessing every quest should, in its like kind of in its kind of bare bone structure, should be again a mini story. So something to entice you. Of course, a reward, so a player wants to do it. That can be like a really interesting story reveal, but most likely an item or something. And then just have it fun and not be tedious. That's just the thing. Like we all know those escort missions, or just like when you have like those games that have you defend an infinite amount of ways, which is just like fun like first few ways, and it just gets boring. So yeah, just make it interesting gameplay and I guess a reward for the player, just like an enticing story, I should say.
And in that is that framework kind of the same for side quests as well, but just like in a smaller version where you just entice them and give them reward, or is there anything different that goes into thinking on?
Oh yeah, I would say it's pretty similar. Like I mentioned, it's just basically side quests could be interchanged into main quests. The only difference is they just kind of are world building. They just like expand the world, maybe even the characters. Some of the side characters you learn more about them and stuff. Maybe you even learn more about the main characters through the side quests, but generally they are kind of like structured, or will be structured the same as the main quests.
Okay, cool. What is your guys' approaches to brainstorming new ideas and getting them implemented?
Yeah, so generally we just hop into Discord and we just like talk. So one of us gets an idea, we like get the guys together, or just the two of us, and we're like, okay, what do you think about this? And then we have, for example, most of the times, okay, oh, that's a good idea, but what if we do it like this? And we just, kind of have these brainstorming sessions where we fire each other up to, just create something nice. And it's just a really fun approach we have, and most of the times just it results in something really cool.
Yeah.
So do you have you had like any scenarios where maybe have you guys had like any sort of like conflict in regarding the story or things? Like how as a team, how do you guys typically go? If Ky's like, I really love this mechanic and I really want to add it, but then Matt's like, dude, that doesn't make sense story-wise at all. Like, so or something like that. Like, how is there a process that you guys do to kind of work through that?
So as much as we fire each other up and just make ourselves do better, we also discuss. So we have a lot of discussions when it comes. I think story-wise we're pretty lined up, but sometimes. In terms of the visuals of the game, we have we tend to discuss a lot. Just recently, so I'm kind of giving over the whole 3D designing slowly but sure. I'm giving it over to Matt, and he recently made the new 3D trees that we added to our game. Before that, we were using like these kind of semi 2D 3D trees, and I think it took us probably like a solid week to. Work out a tree that we were both satisfied with. And I think that also resulted in something very nice, but
there were some like stressful tug and pulls at some point. But most of the times it would like end up being like I don't know. I make a tree. Kyh says I want to change this. Then I'll be like, that doesn't make sense. But then I will look at it and be like, that actually is a good idea.
Right?
I'm not gonna tell him.
I mean, to work on a team, it does take a little bit of you have to remove your ego in a way and kind of be like, okay, let me think about what this guy's actually saying, because it might make sense and it might be better. But the only reason I was kind of laughing is because it's kind of funny that when you get into game dev, you really can have like big conversations of a tree because it's like
Yeah.
because it really can change a lot of the feeling of the world. You know, you're walking through a world full of trees, and if your tree looks a little odd, maybe your players might notice it, but as a developer, for sure, you're definitely gonna be sitting there looking at your trees the entire time you play.
So arguably, I'd say the environment, the trees especially, are like partially more important than your character itself, because most of the times the player isn't actually looking at the character; they are looking at the environments. And with, for example, games like Pokemon, you might remember Pokemon Sword and Shield. People were really, criticizing the quality of their foliage environments and the trees especially. So I think like. One of the first things I would ask someone if they would, join our team, I would be like, okay, how well are you with trees?
Do you like how do you like your trees? but it's good to have that critical eye, especially to make a good game. You really need to be able to sit there and criticize your own work over and over and over until you get it perfect.
You can see that in the newest redesign of our starting village. We like kind of got really in there, worked really hard, and made that in roughly like 5-6 days, just a complete rework of the map. And you can really see the fruits of our labor and just how we evolved as a team and our environmental design by that rework, I think. And yeah, I think we like helping each other improve a lot by the day.
Yeah, I really like your guys's your 3D models and the art style in general. Did you guys already know how to do like 3D models, or as soon as you were like, I want to make a 2.5D game, I need to just go mess around in Blender or something like that? Like,
yeah,
is that kind of what you did, or?
I at one point before starting the game, I made vaporwave 3D animations on Instagram. I had this art account I was using, and I made very abstract animations on there. So that was my first contact with Blender. So obviously going into Essentia, I kind of already had some experience with it, but I really just got started with it and actually got good with 3D modeling when we started with Essentia.
Okay.
Yeah. As for me, I didn't do like any kind of 3D design. I did draw before. I don't do that as much anymore. But then on my university, I had to take a course about 3D modeling actually, and I got kind of hooked on it, a 3D modeling animation, and that was around the same time I actually joined the team. So currently, basically, Kyh is my senpai, my mentor. He's basically mentoring. Like I do have some knowledge and I'm getting better, I feel like, but yeah, I still like Kyh will be like, hey, there's this cool thing you can do, and bam, he will just blow my mind.
Yeah, I mean, once we're like on the same level, it'll be amazing. We can both just equally split up the 3D work, and you do that, I do that. I do the trees, you do the rest.
Yeah, don't let Matt touch the trees.
Oh man, I worked hard on those trees, okay? There was like blood, sweat, and tears that went into those trees.
They turned out really well. I can't complain.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
How about the water? I just want to ask. Like, it might have been an easy thing to do, but the water looks nice.
It's actually I took a really interesting approach with that. So, have you developed with Unreal Engine or Unity?
My game is in Unity, but I have touched Unreal a little bit.
Yeah. So Unreal has this whole waterworks system, this plugin, which is usually used in most projects, I guess. My approach was a bit different because, first of all, we are not working with landscapes. The maps we create, they are maps we make in Blender and then import into Unreal Engine. We just figured that was the better approach for us. And you can't use the water system with that. So what I did is that I created a shader material which kind of which looks like water pretty much. So it's just using a water normal map and pretty much just replicating that flow. It looks really natural and it's very efficient too. So I'm very proud of that actually.
Yeah, it looks really nice. So like, is the process of that you just kind of like put like a cube underneath the thing and you just put the shader on it and whatnot, or?
Yeah, it's kind of a flat plane. Once you lift it up, it looks really funny. I can send you a pic later.
Okay, and last question for you guys. I like to ask this one. do you each of you have kind of a tip, life advice, or a game dev tip or something that each of you maybe you kind of stick with, or philosophy in game design in general? Or...
Oh yes, so I think the most important thing when you start to develop a game is not to overwhelm yourself. This is something I realized throughout the past year or so of developing this game. You have big plans and you want to create a really nice game, but first and foremost, it's important to see what you can do in a specific time frame and do your best to accomplish these goals. And if you have the time, you can, build up on that. That's the most important thing in game development, at least for me.
As for me, I would 100% agree with Kyh, and kind of jumping from his point, I also always, like, in any kind of, especially creative field, I always like to give advice just to kind of step back, because sometimes when you're creating, writing, modeling, programming even, to a certain extent, it's always good to kind of step back and kind of get more of an objective view. You can also ask friends, family for that, but it's also important that you yourself kind of either take a break, go outside, or even just go into a different room, come back, and then just kind of see where you're standing, because it can change your perspective and make you perform better.
Thank you guys for talking to me today. It's really been a pleasure.